SA Airlink to the Competition Tribunal for prosecution on charges of excessive and predatory pricing. It says that the complaints were lodged by Fly Blue Crane or Tambo District Chamber of Business between 2015 and 2017. The complaints were about the Johannesburg-Mthatha route. They allege that SA Airlink's prices were excessive before Fly Blue Crane entered the route, and that Airlink then lowered its prices below cost when Fly Blue Crane entered the route. The investigation found that consumers would have saved between 89 million rand and 108 million rand had SA Airlink not priced excessively on its route. Lower prices would have also resulted in more passengers able to travel by air on the route, possibly contributing to the local economy of Mthatha. The investigation also found that the predatory pricing conduct of SA Airlink contributed to the exit of Fly Blue Crane and their only competitor at the time in the Johannesburg-Mthatha route, eventually running into difficulty. Well, for more on this, I'm now joined by Sipho Ngwema, who's the spokesperson for the Competition Commission. Thank you very much for joining us and welcome to the program. Perhaps we could...
Thank you very much, and thanks for having me here. All
right, so perhaps you can give us a little bit of background of how this case came to your attention. What alerted you that there might be a problem?
As you said earlier, there were 3 complainants that came to us: Fly Blue Crane, the Chamber of Commerce in Tambo, and a certain Mr. Kwezi, who came to complain to us about the behavior of SA Airlink on that Mthatha Johannesburg route. And as you can imagine, the Chamber of Business was more worried about people not being able to come to Mthatha because of excessive prices. And then Blue Crane also complained about the behavior of SA Airlink. And as you said, it contributed in terms of our investigation to the exit of Blue Crane out of that market, which then has left SA Airlink as the only player airline on the route between Johannesburg and Mthatha.
All right, so, I'm just trying to look at this as a normal competitive business principle. When does it become excessive pricing or just pricing in the marketplace and people pay whatever somebody is prepared to charge, and if you don't want to pay for that, you don't use their service?
Yes, indeed. Unless you are a dominant player, you must remember, in terms of the Competition Act, there is a definition in terms of who is a dominant player. And when you look at the route between Johannesburg and Mthatha, the only player there is SA Airlink. And when you look at the prices that they charge and you do a comparison, and you also compare that to their own business costs, and you will then be able to find through some formulas that our people will use to see what is the reasonable price that can be charged. However, when you then look at this dominance, you will then discover the fact that when Blue Crane came to give competition to SA Airlink, then the prices were very low, below their cost. Therefore, that meant Blue Crane was undercut and they squeezed them out, and as a result, they left that particular market. They were able to do that because, one, they are dominating in the market, but also they are also part of other routes which can be able or could be able to subsidize that particular route. So when we then looked at those things and looked in terms of the business costs, in terms of what was reasonable in charging the prices between Johannesburg and Mthatha, we find that the prices were excessive. And also during the time when Fly Blue Crane were there, the prices went extremely down, even below their own cost, which did not make business sense.
All right. Mr. Ngwema, are you not prescribing what kind of profits people are allowed to make?
No, you must remember there's a Competition Act which prescribes how businesses must conduct themselves, particularly in a highly monopolized environment like ours. And you need to make sure that in terms of the law, you deal with barriers of entry. So the law makes prescriptions in terms of parties that are conducting business and how they should conduct business in terms of competition. So whatever we do in terms of the Competition Act, we give effect in terms of the Competition Act. So we don't make the law, we apply the law. The law says to us, look for things that you think will lessen or threaten competition. Look for monopolies that will then abuse their dominance at the expense of competition and customers, and make sure that you apply the law and you bring them to be in line with the law. So that's the tool we use given by the legislator.
All right, so you're taking them to the Competition Tribunal. Is this something that might see criminal prosecution? Help us understand, because often we hear these things go to another layer, but somebody pays a fine and then, you know, life goes on.
Yes, indeed. You must remember the law has now been amended. If there are things that would need to be taken to law enforcement or criminal law enforcement agencies, we are constantly interacting with them. In fact, there are a number of cases that we are discussing with them, which we will pass on to them if we think between the two of us that there is a prospects of success in terms of criminal prosecution. And certainly any other case that we deal with will be able to take to the criminal investigating agencies to make sure that those kinds of processes take place after our processes have been exhausted.
All right, and then perhaps finally, does this mean good news for the consumer, that flights between Johannesburg and Mthatha are probably going to come down now in the future?
You must remember, one of the things that we are raising is that part of this abuse of dominance, it hinders other competitors to come into the route. And when you have more competition, the consumer is exposed to better prices and sometimes to quality in terms of the service that is being offered. So yes, indeed, that's what we are hoping for. But also we are very concerned about what we see as conduct of anti-competitive conduct that lessens and threatens competition, and particularly amongst areas where SOEs are involved. And you must remember as well that there's an SOE that has some percentage of Airlink, but we are casting our eyes in this particular sector because we are extremely worried about the prices and some of the things that you are observing which may be anti-competitive. And hopefully, as I said earlier, we want to bring the prices down. We want more competition. We want more players to come in so that in the end there's better quality and customers are exposed to better prices.
All right, Mr. Ngwema, thank you very much indeed. And we thank you for fighting the good fight on behalf of the consumers. We always appreciate someone on our side. Thanks so much for your time. All right, that was Sipho Ngwema from the Competition Commission highlighting this issue of overpricing on the route between Johannesburg and Mthatha, and hopefully you're going to see those prices come down, and I know that's going to be good news for you, Leanne, as well.